Today's podcast is brought to you by Progresso Talent Partners, who for more than 25 years have successfully delivered interim and permanent leadership talent to transform businesses. To hire the talent you need to enable your business to thrive, visit www.progressotalent.com today. Hi listeners, I'm Lee Cooper and welcome to another episode of Extrology, Insights and Inspiration for a Life of Purpose. 2024 has been another remarkable year of conversations with some of the most inspiring individuals I've ever had the privilege of speaking with. In this special episode, we're reflecting on what it means to redefine the possible, how to face life-changing adversity, push past boundaries, and accomplish the extraordinary. Today we'll revisit incredible stories from 5 extraordinary individuals. Nick Klingensmith, a 4-time cancer survivor who turned his experiences into a mission of endurance and resilience. Vanessa Ruck, whose life-changing accident didn't define her, it propelled her to redefine herself. Colin, a CFO who courageously faced anorexia and emerged stronger. Gareth who found hope and purpose after a life-changing epilepsy diagnosis, and Chad Foster, who turned the experience of losing his sight into a springboard for growth, reframing adversity as opportunity. Each story is a testament to the human spirit's capacity to overcome, grow, and inspire. So what's the story behind the story? Without further ado, let's get into it. Redefining the possible is about challenging the boundaries of what we think is achievable and refusing to let adversity define us. Each of these guests not only faced life-altering obstacles, but used them as stepping stones to accomplish the extraordinary. Throughout their journeys, 3 powerful themes emerged. Courage in vulnerability, the bravery required to face inner battles and openly share them. Breaking barriers, challenging the limits imposed by adversity, society, or oneself, and purpose-driven growth, using hardship to find deeper meaning and clarity in life. So let's explore these themes through the incredible stories of our guests. We're going to start with breaking barriers. It's about challenging limitations, whether imposed by circumstances, others, or ourselves, and finding ways to surpass them. In episode 97 earlier this year, Nick Klingensmith joined me to talk about triumph beyond his diagnosis. Nick's journey is the epitome of redefining what's possible. As a 4-time cancer survivor, he didn't let the weight of his diagnosis dictate his story. Instead, he embraced endurance sports, pushing his body and mind to places he once thought unattainable.
Why do I want to be a survivor? What in the fuck is the value of that? That is not the point of life. The point of life is not to just hang on and survive for dear life. That's when I made a decision that I'm here to thrive and that I was still playing the victim. Here I was still after everything I'd been through. And I realized I hadn't overcome anything. I had only survived everything I had been through. And I was tired of living that way. And I said, you know what? Fuck it. I am not a victim. I'm a warrior and I am going to war. I'm going to pick a fight with cancer. I'm going to pick a fight with diabetes. I'm going to spend every day helping other alcoholics get sober because that's how I recover. And I said, I will not be defined by my adversity, but rather my triumph over it. And so it was that simple of making a decision, a declaration. And that's how I overcame my adversity. And that's how I know I can overcome any adversity.
Nick's story is a powerful reminder that our circumstances don't have to confine us. By leaning into the challenge, he found not just survival, but a renewed sense of purpose and strength. His passion for endurance sports symbolises this, showing how pushing through discomfort can unlock a whole new level of potential. In episode 101, I was joined by Vanessa Ruck, who talked about how she redefined herself after adversity. Vanessa's accident left her grappling with physical limitations and emotional hurdles, but it didn't stop her. Instead, she pivoted her ambitions, finding a way to thrive through goal setting and adaptive racing.
Sometimes you've just got to have a awkward conversation with yourself and realize that not everything that you wish you could do or you wanted to do is going to be feasible with the situation that you're in. And so the idea of quitting wasn't ever something that I was going to do. I just had to adapt. We had to find a new way forwards. Okay, I couldn't enjoy going off kite surfing, and we used to go on holidays like Brazil, Western Sahara, Egypt, all over the place kite surfing. We used to go on rock climbing holidays. I couldn't do those, and that's where the motorbikes kind of first came into things, because a Harley Davidson is like a big sofa with an engine, and I'd say that was probably one of the biggest things for my mental health in the recovery. Bearing in mind, over the 7 years, it was like a roller coaster of bedbound or extensive rehab, getting a lot better, a bit more active, maybe able to ride a motorbike, and then more surgery and back down again. And in some of those highs, my husband and I decided to do an early life crisis to get 2 Harley Davidsons, and it was phenomenal for my mental health. If I wasn't going to go on a spa break or a city tour, like that wasn't who I was. Once I was back at work, why would I take any time off work to do what? There's nothing fun to do. But we ended up doing sort of 25,000 miles around Europe over the following 3 years between surgeries on the Harleys, and it became our new form of adventure. And okay, yes, I would have loved to have gone kite surfing, but I couldn't do that. So instead, it was adapting. What else can I do that's going to give me some enjoyment, some adrenaline that I can do with my body? And that was getting on a motorbike, or even go on a yacht sailing holiday in Greece with my husband and some family. I could do that with my hip post surgery. I was still having an adventure. We were sailing. It's about adapting.
Vanessa's story shows us that redefining the possible often requires redefining ourselves. Even when the rules of the game change, we can still play to win. In the brilliant episode 79, Gareth de la Tour joined me to talk about his thriving beyond an epilepsy diagnosis. Gareth's diagnosis forced him to navigate a world that suddenly felt unfamiliar, but he found freedom and purpose through small adjustments and rediscovering his love for the outdoors. How has living with epilepsy affected your day-to-day life? I mean, what were some of the bigger challenges that you were faced with initially?
Well, it affects everything that you do. I mean, you learn to live with it, but it's always in the back of your mind. You know, I haven't had a bath.
Yeah.
You know, I can have baths, obviously, if someone's with me.
Yeah.
But yeah, that kind of thing, you know. I sit down. I'm
ashamed to say that never would have occurred to me, but it makes perfect sense as to the reasons why you couldn't, as you've explained. But
you sit down in the shower, you sit down to use the toilet. You know, anything. You learn these little things like to try and mitigate any form of injury that you would have in a fall. I mean, for a period of time, it just seemed that all of my seizures happened when I was on the stairs. I went through a period of time where I was constantly having seizures on the stairs, ending up at the bottom. You know.
And do you think people might think, is there a risk that people might, ill-informed perhaps, but might assume, well, look, if you feel it coming on, get to the bottom of the stairs is not an option, is it?
I don't know that it's going to happen. Some people get like an aura.
Right.
They get like a funny taste in their mouth or that. I mean, my partner says to me, she can tell. And she will say that my personality can change sort of like half an hour to 15 minutes before I have one. But I wouldn't notice that if I was on my own. So it's we use the term epilepsy, but it just covers such a broad, it's like saying cancer. We all know what cancer is, but when you dive deeper and zoom in on it, there's so many different facets and different ways of treating it. And it is a little bit like that.
Gareth's story reminds us that redefining the possible isn't always about big leaps. It can be about small, deliberate steps. These incremental changes helped him reclaim his independence and eventually transform his life. Courage in vulnerability highlights the bravery required to confront internal struggles and share them openly. This theme emerged powerfully in the stories of Colin, Gareth de la Tour and Nick Klingensmith, who each found strength through their willingness to be vulnerable. In episodes 93 and 94, I was joined by Colin Day. Colin talked of his courage in facing inner battles. His battle with anorexia taught him the importance of speaking openly about struggles that often remain hidden. As a CFO in a high-pressure industry, his courage in sharing his story is an inspiration to all.
I would say that if someone is starting to stumble across that concept within their own mind, that maybe there's something not quite working for them in their life, and it's, you got to talk to someone. Right, it's the biggest mistake I made. Right, I didn't actually talk to anyone. Typical male response, and it is a stereotypical male response, and particularly, of a generation, growing up in the 80s and 90s, you kind of born and bred to be tough and nothing affects you.
The phrase "man up," right?
Yeah, exactly.
Persists.
Exactly.
Just man up.
So finding someone who you can confide in, and be open to the concept of actually saying, I'm really not coping at the moment. That for me is absolutely fundamental, and not seeing that as a sign of, by any means, a sign of weakness.
Colin's story teaches us that the courage to open up is transformative, not just for ourselves, but for those around us. By sharing his struggles, Colin became a source of strength for others, showing that vulnerability is a powerful leadership trait. His journey challenges us to think about our own approach to vulnerability. What would happen if we stopped seeing it as a sign of weakness and started embracing it as an act of strength? Back to Gareth de la Tour and vulnerability through adaptation. Gareth's epilepsy diagnosis required immense courage, not only to adapt to a new way of life, but to share his experience with others. His journey underscores how vulnerability can lead to connection and growth.
Well, I was just getting married when I was diagnosed. And there's a story in the book. The day before my wedding, I had a seizure on the stairs, was blue lighted into hospital with a suspected spinal injury. That was the day before the wedding, So I was almost embarking on a new life after a divorce. Was getting married, had this bang on the head, and in it, I guess it was gradual, but to me it was just like one hit after the other.
What stands out about Gareth's story is how he embraced vulnerability not as a weakness, but as a way to reclaim his independence. His willingness to share his experience is a reminder that true courage often begins when we acknowledge our struggles. By being vulnerable, Gareth didn't just help himself. He inspired others to confront their own challenges with honesty and bravery. Nick Klingensmith talked of finding strength in sharing. His journey as a 4-time cancer survivor is marked not only by his physical resilience, but also by his openness in sharing his story to inspire others.
It's not my experiences, because if we just tried to use my experiences, the world would get a pretty dark and dismal place. It's my decision and my perspective, my chosen perspective. And it's very new, and it is a choice. And that's why I was going to say it sounds overly simplistic, but you see what you want to see. I wanted to see the bad. I wanted to feel special. I wanted people to feel sorry for me. I wanted to be a victim for so long until it doesn't work for you anymore. So that's not how I want to live. I want to be happy. You know what inspires me? Inspiring others. Helping others helps me. That's it. It's a simple thing. So the way it is that I share the power of our mind and our decision to move beyond the victimhood and to move beyond the experiences and the traumas. Now, that's not saying ignoring them. They are with me every single day, but that's why I still have to make that choice, because the past always tries to keep you in the past. So a lot of times, here's the thing, I'm not living in the past anymore, but what I am focused on is sharing my current perspective about how getting through, a terrible ordeal, or about how you can practically make that decision every day. It's not as simple as snapping your fingers. Like, sometimes we have to really get into the nitty gritty. And this is where I just go back to day-to-time living. I make that decision every single day. We all wake up with the same problem every single day. Everybody wakes up with the exact same problem, which is any thought that we have is going to be based on the past. The first thoughts we have are going to be carrying from the day before, which is no longer relevant. So there's a decision. At what point are we going to start thinking about today and the future and the things that we want, the things that we need, and to do it without limits, to do it without constraints, to do it without holding ourselves back because of some preconceived notion. If I still lived in the same past, I'd be knocking doors in Springfield, Massachusetts, making $40,000 a year, selling phone service, because I would have never thought I was capable of moving beyond that. Or maybe I would have never left the island. Maybe I'd be banging nails somewhere, like scraping by, because I'm not very good at it, or working in restaurants, and then winter comes and not having money for 9 months because I never thought I could move beyond it. Or maybe I'd be fucking dead because I keep trying to die. Like, we don't decide whether or not we're victimized. We do decide whether or not we remain a victim.
Nick's story reminds us that sharing our struggles can be as brave as overcoming them. His vulnerability allowed him to build connections and offer hope to those facing similar challenges. What I love about Nick's perspective is how it transforms vulnerability from a private battle into a collective strength. It's a call to action for all of us to consider. How might sharing our own stories inspire and empower those around us? Those stories of Colin, Gareth and Nick remind us that courage in vulnerability isn't about appearing strong. It's about being authentic. When we open up about our challenges, we not only heal ourselves, but also inspire those around us to face their own battles. Purpose-driven growth explores how adversity can lead to deeper clarity and meaning. For Chad Foster, Vanessa Ruck, and Gareth de la Tour, purpose became the guiding force that drove them to redefine their limits and create lasting impact. Chad Foster joined me in episode 108. Chad didn't just survive losing his sight, he thrived because of it. By reframing adversity as a catalyst for growth, Chad turned his challenges into a source of empowerment for himself and others.
You know, fundamentally, we all become the stories that we tell ourselves. You will become the stories that you tell yourself about the circumstances in your life, about the adversity that you're facing. If you're telling yourself a story of poor me and this is too hard, then that's very likely to be true. But instead, if you're telling yourself a story of, well, this is an opportunity for growth for me, and I will be a better person because of this adversity, and here's how I'm going to use it to do some good, then you can reframe that adversity into a springboard for growth, which is what I've done. And so I hope that everybody can really unpack how crucial it is to make sure that they control the narratives in their head about why they're facing what they're facing. And if they can do that and then really understand why they're doing the work that they're doing, what is the meaning behind the work that they're doing, and really extrapolate their purpose as it relates to what they're doing on a day-to-day basis. See, that's where motivation and drive come into play.
Chad's story is a testament to how clarity of purpose can guide us through even the toughest challenges. His ability to reframe losing his sight as an opportunity for growth shows how a strong sense of purpose can transform adversity into achievement. For me, Chad's story challenged us to think about the narratives we create in our own lives. How might reframing our struggles lead us to discover new possibilities and deeper meaning? For Vanessa Ruck, purpose came from using her experience to inspire others to overcome their own challenges. Her resilience and adaptability turned her into a voice of encouragement for those facing setbacks.
At this point, I had started riding the Harley Davidson, and obviously I was stuck on a bicycle, so the girl on the bike just kind of seemed to fit language-wise. And then what I didn't realize or even remotely anticipate is that other people would get energy out of my story and my energy and my approach to things in life and fight. And it's kind of just sort of snowballed and continued to escalate. I think for me, the more I share my story, and if you follow me on social media, you'll realize that I'm very, very honest. I'm like full cards on the table. I share the bad days, the good days. Sometimes you could probably say I overshare, particularly when it comes to like pooing and weeing in desert races, but people don't talk about all of the things that you face in these things. I just share it all. I'm honest and I'm there. And people seem to get some energy out of it. But the more I share, the more I get incredible messages from other people who are like, I saw you did this, or I read that, and I just wanted to thank you. I've now gone and done this, and you really inspired me. You gave me energy, and then that gives me energy, and then I give more energy, and then it's just this amazing spiral of just good energy.
Vanessa's story shows us that purpose often lies in the impact we have on others. By turning her personal battles into a source of strength for her community, Vanessa redefined what it means to succeed. Her journey invites us to ask, how can we use our own experiences, not just for personal growth, but to make a difference in the lives of others? Gareth de la Tour found his sense of purpose in reconnecting with the outdoors and using his story to inspire others. Writing his book was a key part of the healing process.
I grew up with two brothers in a small market town in West Sussex. And we had access to a river that ran through it and fields, and we would spend a lot of time there. My grandparents lived right on the footpath that led down to the river, so we would spend a lot of time at my grandparents'. We would spend a lot of time in the summer holidays over this river, and as I got older, we would camp overnight, and I kind of liken it to like an 80s Huckleberry Finn kind of adventure, and that happened for quite a lot of summers, and I really enjoyed that. And while I was welded to the sofa, I was kind of reminded of that by diving into the YouTube rabbit hole and seeing content creators going out camping and doing all that, and I would think, oh yeah, I used to really like that. Didn't even have a tent, we just sleep in our sleeping bags and build a big fire and cook tins of beans and all of that. And as I watched more of this kind of camping, I thought, oh, I'd really like to do that. I didn't think it was going to help. It was just something like, oh yeah, I used to really enjoy doing that as a kid, and trying to relive some of that youth maybe. And when I finally did, much to the worry of my mum and my family, oh my God, he's going to go out and sit in the woods on his own, and is he mad? But when I did it, it was I don't know. I didn't think about epilepsy. I felt free. And I think that was the catalyst of, okay, well, I actually feel all right now. I don't feel like depressed. I don't feel sad. I'm not angry, and I kind of thought, well, maybe I need to do more of this. Is this helping?
Gareth's journey shows us that rediscovering our passions can reignite our purpose. His connection to nature and storytelling became powerful tools for finding meaning after adversity. What I find inspiring about Gareth's story is how he used his experience to create something lasting, not just for himself, but for others who may be walking a similar path. The journeys of Chad, Vanessa, and Gareth remind us that purpose is the anchor that steadies us through life's storms. Whether it's inspiring others, creating meaningful change, or rediscovering our passions, purpose gives us the courage to take bold steps forward. This was the second of 3 review of 2024 episodes. In the final instalment next week, we'll explore powerful stories of personal transformation and growth, offering lessons to inspire your journey into 2025, which is already shaping up to be extraordinary for Extrology. We've recorded conversations with an incredible lineup of guests, and I can't wait to share their stories with you. Before we go, I have a quick ask. If you've enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. Subscribe to our YouTube channel for exclusive content and highlights. Follow us on our socials for behind-the-scenes updates and inspiration, and sign up to our newsletter at extrology.com to stay connected and inspired. Thank you for being part of the Extrology community. Until next time, stay curious and keep striving for a life of purpose. Just a reminder, today's podcast is brought to you by Progresso Talent Partners. Visit www.progressotalent.com today for more information.